Hello, everyone. My name is Heidi Coiler, fish habitat biologist with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service in La Crosse, Wisconsin. So we're going to give you some guidance this year for Fishers and Farmers Partnership. Today, we're going to go over speaker introductions, who Fishers and Farmers is, our partnership, the application for 2027. We're going to go over, what the proposal looks like, what's all included, the timeline, the ranking process that our steering committee uses, and then Sherry's going to go into past funded projects that we have funded, a successful project that has gone through our ranking system. And then at the end, we're going to provide enough time for questions and answers. So along presenting today with me is Sherry Fisher. She's the chair of Fishers and Farmers Partnership. And Sherry, I don't know if you want to come off camera and wave to everyone. She's been the chair since 2020 and a member since 2014. She's with the Missouri Department of Conservation, and she's a science unit supervisor. And again, my name's Heidi Coiler. I'm a fish habitat biologist with the Fish and Wildlife Service in La Crosse. And I've been coordinator since 2010. So I really want to give a brief overview of Fishers and Farmers, but I have to also talk about the National Fish Habitat Partnership Program, which is where we receive our money. Funding comes through the NFHAP program, and it is authorized every year. It's authorized at $7.2 million, and we usually, by the time it gets to all of the fish habitat partnerships, it's around $6.5 million. And you can see the goals and objectives there. The NFHAP, you can go to Fishers and go to, excuse me, go to fishhabitat.org to find more information about the National Fish Habitat Partnership. There are 20 fish habitat partnerships throughout the country. We are just one of them. Also in the driftless area, some of you have maybe already worked with Sarah Strassman, who works for Trout Unlimited, and she coordinates the driftless area restoration effort, focusing on cold water streams. Fishers and Farmers incorporates, they have DARE in the middle of our area, but we also work on smallmouth bass or warmer water streams. Sometimes we do joint projects together, but there are other fish habitat partnerships here in the Midwest, including Ohio River Basin, Midwest Glacial Lakes, Great Lakes Fish Habitat Partnership. And you can visit fishhabitat.org to learn more about those other fish habitat partnerships. And a lot of them also provide annual funding. Fishers and Farmers is made up of the organizations you see here on the screen. A lot of these partners have been with us since the very beginning, such as Iowa Soybean Association, and all of the state partners that you see here. We have both agricultural and natural resources organizations on our steering committee. I mentioned Iowa Soybean, but we also have Minnesota corn growers. And we have Dick Cates, who is a grass-fed beef producer out of Wisconsin. Here is our current steering committee, minus a few people that couldn't make that specific meeting. But we have fish biologists, ecologists, GIS specialists, business folks, marketing, and communications. We have a staff that keeps us running. Amy Smith is on the call today. So Amy, if you want to come off, if you want to show yourself, turn on your camera. She is our co-coordinator, communications lead. And then you saw Sherry Fisher, our chair. Nancy North retired from Fishers and Farmers, but she still does our workshops that we put on for farmers every year. And then I'm coordinator. And then Jody Whittier is our GIS and science team lead, and she's with the University of Missouri. Fishers and farmers priorities are really working with farmers um, to work in the uplands, not just in the stream, but we really work in the riparian corridor in and up in their pastures and fields. And you can see all of our priorities listed here. Fishers and farmers projects you can see on the screen. And if you look at the national land cover, you can see we're really trying to hit those agricultural rich areas and working in a lot of the different topographies. You know, we work a little bit in the driftless area, but then also outside of the driftless area, the whole upper Mississippi River Basin. For fiscal year 27, we have about $300,000 available, and that's every year it changes. We do have to go after competitive funding, and so it changes a little bit every year. It's about, we can usually fund about 4 or 5 projects with that. So we are looking for projects ranging from $15,000 up to $100,000. Usually about average, we have about $50,000 projects, maybe a little bit under $40,000. We do require cost share 1-to-1, and if the cost share comes in higher, those projects tend to receive a few more points in the ranking process. I do want to mention at this time too, in the past couple of years in 2025 and now in 2026, any projects over $50,000 are going through an extra approval process. And we're seeing that, and our other federal partners are also seeing that as well. It's not just Fishers and Farmers Partnership, but the other federal funders are seeing that as well. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Our projects in 2025 that are over $50,000 still haven't been approved. All of the projects that were under $50,000 were approved and have received those agreements. So Fishers and farmers projects have to be in line with our priorities, goals, and objectives that you saw earlier. And so we are looking at addressing priority areas. We do have priority areas that you can find on our website. But we are also looking for projects outside those areas. So some of those priority areas are the Cannon River watershed in Minnesota and the Boone River watershed in Iowa. We're looking at Pinot Creek in Missouri and the Bad Axe in Wisconsin. But just keep in mind, those are listed as priority areas, but we also fund projects outside of those areas. Priority species, we're really looking at smallmouth bass projects, Topeka shiner, channel catfish, but then also freshwater mussels as well. And then brook trout and brown trout. We overlap a little bit with the TU DARE driftless area restoration effort on some of those projects. And so we're sometimes interested in doing joint projects with them as well, or some of the other FHPs. Above all, we really want to engage with farmers. So we have to include, we really want to see 2 or 3 farmers in these projects, not just one farmer. We don't do landowner agreements directly. Some of you have worked with the Partners for Fish and Wildlife program of the Fish and Wildlife Service. That is a different funded program. Our program is through the fisheries program, Fish and Aquatic Science. And so we do have different funding strategies. We also want to see alignment with national, regional, and local plans. And so I just listed a few up there. So I did list the National Fish Habitat Partnership Plan, More regionally, the Midwest Landscape Initiative, of course, the state wildlife action plans, and then local watershed plans. We really want to see that you are working with multiple partners, federal, state, local, um, and working together on these projects. So the project narrative, if you go to our website, fishersandfarmers.org, you're going to see a green bar at the top of the website. And if you click on that, you can go to our, um, our funding template. It'll give you all the information before that, what I just kind of covered, goals, priorities, objectives. But when you look at the project narrative, the project proposal template, you're going to see the statement of need and purpose, objectives. What are you trying to accomplish? We want to see biological or ecological benefits, and that includes, of course, not only water quality, but soil health improvements. And then how does that relate to our fisheries? We want to see a good outline of your methods and approach. We also really want to see how are you going to monitor or evaluate your project. And it doesn't always come down to acres and miles. It's also, you know, the people that are included, the farmers. How many farmers have you included in your project, and how many more? Uh, and then you can also see landowner involvement. How are you involving the current farmers? And you can see there too, our projects don't have to cover every single one of these, but we really like to see how you are trying to incorporate some of it. So, for example, our projects don't have to allow easement or access to fishing. We work on private lands. Um, but what your project is doing or accomplishing probably indirectly improves recreational fishing. So, we also want to hear about that. Environmental compliance. We do have to make sure that we have all of our permits in place. So NEPA, we have to do Section 7, so endangered species, and SHPO, or State Historic Preservation. We have to make sure all those permits are in place. And then, of course, any other permitting too, you know, the nationwide permit, Corps of Engineers, any state or local permits. And I don't have to be directly involved in those, but I do have to receive a copy of those just to know that they've been done. Our projects are both dirt moving and non-dirt moving, but for the dirt moving portion, we really want to make sure the compliance has been done. Life expectancy. We want to see that this project isn't just a one and done. We really want to see how this grows and how it impacts, you know, possible future projects. And we would love to see you come back for funding in the future. And, you know, how can we work with you and make that happen? Um, Expertise of project lead, and then how your partners are all involved. Budget justification and match. So you're going to see a lot of paperwork that other federal organizations use. It hasn't changed, but I really try to work with all the partners and make it as easy as possible. And so I'm willing to work with you and run through some of these things. And feel free, if you have a draft project proposal done and you want to send it my way ahead of time, feel free to do that. And I'd be willing to kind of go through it and talk with you. Sometimes I even send it out to our state representatives. So each of the 5 states has a representative on our steering committee, and we talk about a lot of the different priorities that we're working on. And so I'll send it out to them. And sometimes they're able to provide information on maybe another funding source for match, or maybe it's really in line with what they're working on and they want to become part of the project and really help. So in the budget, that's probably one of the most important things in the whole proposal is the budget. And so we want to see, all of these lined out in the proposal. And if you have any questions at the end, I'd be happy to answer those. Project timeline. Now is where I'm going to switch it over to Sherry. And Sherry's going to wrap up kind of what we're looking at as far as the process and what the steering committee does. Sherry's been involved in these project rankings and selections for quite a few years, since 2014, I believe. So she's really seen a lot of what's come across our desk as far as projects and kind of how the steering committee is involved in selecting. So Sherry, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Thank you, Heidi.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, so this is a little bit about what the project timeline looks like. Obviously now and through September is you folks hopefully developing projects for funding considerations. We will be working towards that September 10th application and proposal deadline. And then we will meet as a steering committee after that to rank the projects and see a brief presentation from those that are turning in proposals and have some Q&A. And then we'll work through February to finish ranking, evaluation, and approval. Then June through August of next year, we'll be announcing award recipients, and hopefully all things going well, agreements and funding will be awarded a year from now. Next slide, Heidi. Yeah, so there's kind of three basic sections to the project proposal. And this is sort of the guidelines that we use in our rubric to go through and rank the process and the criteria that we use. So we're looking first for, does the project align with our Fishers and Farmers Partnership goals, with the NIFHAP goals and objectives, and those of other local, state, and federal partners? We're looking at the project narrative and objectives to see, do we address fish and habitat, watershed issues, including monitoring and outreach, all the things that Heidi went through a few slides ago, and really just overall sound conservation principles. Conservation. Ooh, we got some echo there. And then the project budget and timeline, which Heidi mentioned, the budget is one of the important pieces. Is it feasible? Is it realistic? And does it align with the other projects that we're supporting? Next slide. So these are some of the types of projects that we have funded in the past and like to fund. You can see this is quite a laundry list, and we like to have a variety of projects. One thing that we would like to do more of is some aquatic organism passage projects. So we hope to see some of those moving forward in the future. So if you have any questions about a project type that you have in mind and wonder if it'll fit, we'll have time in the Q&A. Also, reach out to Heidi or any of the state representatives too to have those conversations. Next slide. So a couple of things about projects that we've funded in the state of Missouri. These are some projects that were in the Huzzah and Merrimack watershed. And we have funded projects like reinforced stream crossings, alternative watering, rotational grazing, riparian fencing. This is a stream bank stabilization project that incorporates tree planting to get the riparian corridor in good shape. Next slide. Almost always, a lot of the projects will incorporate some sort of a field day or a chance for local landowners and partners to come and see some of the work that's being done, hoping that it'll spread throughout the watershed. So this is a tour that we went on some of those projects, and you can see the partners involved in some of this work. The Ozark Land Trust here in Missouri and the Nature Conservancy have been really great partners. Next slide. Actually, I think 3 other projects that we funded in Missouri were all based around cover crops. And this one in Pinot Creek, we also did one in Spencer and Spring Creek up in Northeast Missouri. John Scherter, who's in the red jacket on the slides on the right, was a landowner that we did a lot of work with, really helping to give producers up in that part of the state an opportunity to support them by providing seed so that they could experiment with some cover crops and hopefully keep that in the future as a part of their production practice. And there is our steering committee meeting and poring over projects. And I think that is maybe the last slide, and we would love to help go through some of your questions.
Yeah, thanks, Sherry. Really appreciate it. Yeah, we're open. We tried to keep it short, the overview as short as we could so that we could provide time for answering questions if you have questions. So if you have a question, feel free to type them in the chat or raise your hand. At the top of your page, there should be a hand that says raise. And if you click that button, it'll raise your hand and we can call on you to ask your question.
Amy also put in the chat the breakdown of the project ranking criteria. So you guys can click on that to see the detail of what I was describing.
All right, I see one question in there from Nick Nelson. I should come off camera too. Could this funding be used for a wetland restoration, specifically tile breaking and removal? We haven't done one of those projects before. Possibly. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting. So I don't decide any of the projects that get funded, even though I work for the Fish and Wildlife Service and I do all the behind the scenes grant process, grant solutions, ASAP, all of that fun stuff. I don't decide what projects get funded. Our steering committee does. And so I can't always say, yes, for sure, we would have funded that project, or no, we wouldn't. What often I do is kind of look at the project and talk to you a little bit more to get some more specifics. So I am open to like setting up a call and just getting a few more details. And then I also usually invite the state representatives to that call. So I saw a few of our steering committee members are on this call. So if you want to at this time turn your cameras on, any of our steering committee members, just so you have a face and a name. Our state reps, of course, for Missouri is Sherry Fisher. I think I saw Brad Sims, from Wisconsin DNR. We have Craig Superior from Minnesota. I don't know if he's on the call today. We have Ben Labinski from Illinois DNR. Oh yeah, Ben's on too. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll send it to our state reps and invite them to that call to kind of talk about the call. And if we think it'll make a good project, and also like we don't receive a lot of funding. And if sometimes we do get quite a few projects, we want to make sure that you're not spending a lot of time on this project proposal and then you don't have any chance at all. So we kind of pre-review it a little bit, but feel free. My contact information will be provided and you can reach out to me so I can get a few more specifics. But I don't see any reason why, like a wetland project like that wouldn't be funded as long as there are farmers involved. you're showing how it impacts the fisheries. And so great question. Thank you very much. Next question, Christine Johnson. Can you share more about how having project partners impacts a proposal required? I wouldn't say project partners are required, but it really adds a lot of strength to your proposal. And so, those project partners can bring in resources. They might bring in-kind funding. So we do include in-kind funding. So your time spent on the project or the farmer's time can be counted as in-kind. And so those extra partners really sometimes bring something to the table that you might not have thought of. Sometimes they bring in actual dollars, match dollars that you can use towards the project. So so it's not a requirement, but I would say strongly suggested. I do see a hand up. Maybe I'll go to the hand up since it's a live question. Eric, you have a question if you want to come off mute and
Sure.
ask your question.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Yeah, my name is Eric. I have a stream running through my property. It's in the Coon Creek watershed in Vernon County, Wisconsin. And it's a really prolific fishery. And the floods about 10 years ago came through and ripped out all the lunker structures and started to really erode and widen the stream, which took away a lot of the riparian area. And I think the DNR would suggest that it's probably not a big enough project. It's only about a quarter mile, but it's too big for me as a landowner to try to do the right thing. And because the stream has gotten so wide, the water has slowed a lot. And in this section, there's a lot of speed because the gradient's pretty large, and it can't scour down to the rocks anymore. So the breeding of the fish is compromised and the water gets really slow in an area. And so I was wondering if that's the kind of project that would be interesting to this organization to help me narrow up the stream, improve the riparian, add some lunker structures, and get the stream crossing back in place so I can get to my farm fields. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your question. I don't know, Brad, would you want to come off mute? It's just kind of fun to have some of the steering committee members also answer. And I don't want to put you on the spot. So if you don't want to answer, I'd be willing to jump in and answer as well.
No, that's fine. So, yeah, I mean, that'd be a project we're interested in, especially if it was with some watershed associations as well, doing some upland work as well as some in-stream work with it. So, and then typically what we've been seeing, because we've had our weather patterns have changed and we see these flooding events more often, we're starting to kind of rethink the way we do habitat projects. So, yeah, we might not necessarily go back and replace the lunkers one-on-one just because they've blown out once and there's a really good chance they'll blow out again, and we've seen them blown out in the driftless area quite a bit here recently. So it would probably be working with you to do a habitat design that's more flood friendly, so to speak, I guess, because there's other options you can use for fish habitat and stuff. So, but yeah, I think just as a standalone project, it would be tough to score. But then, if it's a project that's also associated with other work within the watershed, it'd be more favorable with that. But yeah, I'd recommend reaching out to your local fish biologist also. If you've got a public easement going through, I don't know, not familiar with your property, but if you have the stream bank easement going through your property, that's one that the department themselves could work on, and it'd be worth reaching out to your local fish manager. So.
Yeah, thanks,
Sure.
Brad. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. There is
a
public easement for fishing. Yes,
okay.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Yeah, and feel free to send me an email and I'd be happy to dig in a little bit more. We like to work, like I said, with multiple landowners, not just one, but maybe we can talk about it more with some of our other partners. I did see another hand up, but I think you put it down. David?
Yeah, that was actually me, and I'm putting something in the chat now. I'm the director of the Vernon County Land and Water Conservation Department. And I was going to say, Eric, you should give us a call at 608-637-5480. because I think sounds like a great idea, and we'd love to come do a site visit. And we do have matching funds available, so that you would not be responsible for the whole cost of that project. We'd be happy to have a technician come out and walk the property with you and have you walk us through what you're seeing and what the problems are.
Well, that would be great. The DNR did do a stream crossing about 2 months before that flood happened, and afterwards, because of the weather and all the landowners had trouble, it was difficult for them to come back in because there's so many. But yeah, thank you so much. I'll be interested to talk to you more. Thank you.
Yeah, please reach out.
That's awesome.
Okay,
thank you so much, David. Yeah, thank you. Anytime we can also talk to our local counties or our local state partners, we really try to talk with them and bring them into the process as well. We do not want to duplicate anybody's efforts, step on toes, because as you know, like there's a lot of work to be done, and we can't fund it all, and our partners can't. So thank you for jumping in there. We really appreciate that. I don't see any other hands up, I don't think. So I'm going to go back to the chat and ask another or find another question there. I think I left off with Aaron Erickson. Would beaver dam analogs be something you would fund along the lines of natural infrastructure? That's a great question. We have had project, I think we had one project proposed like that to us in the past. We are very interested in projects like that. That project didn't receive funding, but again, every project is so different, so I can't say yes or no. But I know a lot of the different folks on our steering committee are interested in some of those projects, but again, we also have to kind of find out some details on design, and what you have in mind, because it's really hard to say, yes, we'll fund it, just by just the simple question. We need to have a lot more details. So we like to look at the design and talk to you as well. So feel free, please reach out. My email is heidi_coiler@fws.gov. And you can go to our website, fishersandfarmers.org, and find me there, or we're putting it also in the chat. All right. Great question. Let's see. Richard Cruz or Dick Cruz. The web page indicates 100,000 as the maximum funding amount, and also that you cover 2-year projects. Is the $100,000 per year or total? So the $100,000 is total, and when we write the agreement, it's for 2 years. So you have 2 years to spend the funding, and then we're also pretty flexible. We totally understand capacity changes. You have staff changing or different things. Weather. We've had so many projects in the past several years, especially in the Driftless area, with weather changes. So then we can apply for an extension, and I help you with that. So yeah. So even though these agreements are written for 2 years, we can extend them to 3 years, and even in some cases we've gone as many 4 years. We try not to if we can help it, but we are willing to work with you and completely understand weather, staffing, contractor issues, all sorts of things. You guys, some of you folks that work on these projects all the time know it can be really challenging. Oh, stop sharing my screen. I can stop sharing my screen. I just got to that now. Sophia Campbell. Are watershed funds considered match? The funding source is Section 319 awarded to Iowa DNR, but it comes from EPA originally. Okay, so that was one thing I forgot to mention. We can't really count federal match as match. We like to see it. But we really are looking for more state match, county, businesses, foundations, local NGOs, And so we like to see the 319 that you are receiving that funding, or NRCS. A lot of times our funding sometimes fills in the gap with NRCS funding. So for example, some of our projects have done a project with NRCS, and there's certain requirements that NRCS has, such as certain seed mixes or certain timing. And sometimes that's not always conducive for the farmers. So sometimes Fishers and Farmers is able to provide some of that and just kind of fill in the gaps. And so we can't count the NRCS funding as match, but we do like to see it on there, and we call it leverage. It's kind of one of those other things, but so we just like to see that there's other funding coming in for sure. Next question. Caroline Zimmerman, could these funds be used for the planning process of a large stream restoration project, H&H work? That is one thing we're struggling. So I know especially, in Wisconsin, now projects are required to do H&H, which can be a really expensive thing, and nobody wants to pay for it. It's really hard. And so I would say we really wanted to be part of the whole project. So Fishers and Farmers can fund that. However, we don't want to be only funding H&H projects for these projects. So I would say we can fund things like that, but we also want to be part of the entire project. And I'd be willing to talk with you more about that, at a later time. So feel free to reach out to me, send me an email, and I can set up a call with you. And then like I said, I would probably pull in Brad and Dick Cates, who was on the call too. I see Dick was maybe traveling somewhere, and Dick was on the call. So great to see steering committee members on the call today. All right, let's see. Okay, some comments. I have a question from Ross. Does match need to be secured by the application deadline or by the start date of the project, or can they be projected funds given the timeline? Yeah, so usually they don't need to be secured when you send in your proposal. We really like them to be secured, but of course, we totally understand. So no, you can say, they're projected funds, and that they're not secured. And if you can show that on your project proposal, either star it or somehow say it when you're turning that in. And then we'll also follow up with you when you turn in those project proposals. I will reach out to you and just get a better idea, as well as set up a time for you to present to the steering committee. Because we do ask for all these projects, when we have our steering committee meeting in person, we ask that all of you, if you're sending in a project proposal, present to the steering committee. It gives us all a better feel of the project, and maybe there was something that was missed in the project proposal that we didn't see, or it wasn't covered. So the steering committee can ask you questions. We usually ask you to present maybe 15 to 20 minutes. And then we can ask questions, about the budget or specifics, such as match. And so it's a really good opportunity for the steering committee members to engage with you and get a better feel for the project, because a lot of times you can't always get a good idea of the project when it's sitting on your desk. All right. Oh, David, thank you for providing your contact information. Really appreciate that. That's great. All right. Let's see. Claudette Sandoval Green. Hopefully I'm saying that. Hopefully I'm not butchering all your names too much here. Can we submit the application as a Word document? Yes, we can take the applications as Word, PDF. I don't know if I'm missing any other format, but those are usually the two that come in. We would like to see PDF, but if you send it as a Word, I can usually turn it into a PDF so it's easier for the steering committee. And then we also ask for, when you send in your application, we also ask if you can provide a shared folder. And sometimes, you know, it's really nice to see extra pictures. You can't always put everything on the proposal template. So it's really nice having that shared folder that we can go into. And if you have any problems with it, I'd be willing to help you. Yeah, we've been having issues with our application this year. And so we're working towards a digital one in the future, right, Amy? But we're not quite there yet. So we're hoping that'll be our proposal 2.0 next year. So do what you can. If you're having problems, let me know and we'll try to make it as easy as possible. And we completely understand. Any other questions? Did I miss anything?
So in the Q&A, Heidi,
Yep.
if you open up that one, there's one question still yet.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Q&A. Are there any concerns using funds for projects with public ditches? Oh, that might have been the chat. It just popped up on my. I'll go back to that. Q&A. Can we submit the? Oh, that one I already answered. How specific does the budget need to list the match sources and amounts? We need to know, like, is it federal, state funding? We kind of do like to know the specifics, like who is providing that. It just helps me later when I enter it into the database. If you have all that information up front, then I can just enter it in. Otherwise, I'm going to have to go back and ask you all these questions again if we don't have specifics. And then it also helps us to figure out, okay, they have this partner and that partner, but what about, you know, like Vernon County? Like they haven't included them. Maybe they're a part of the project and didn't even realize it. So it is really nice to have specifics on the match sources and amounts. And especially we need to know, is it federal, is it state, county, because that goes into our database. All right, Q&A was answered. I'm going to go back to the chat. I think the last one, concerns about using funds for project within public ditch systems. So we haven't had really any of those projects yet. But yes, I mean, we have to make sure we're in line with all of the local rules and regulations, the ditching, and everything like that. So this is where we really rely, and we sometimes bring in our local partners and reach out to them and talk to them. And so we haven't really done any ditch projects. So I'm gonna, yeah, be honest with you there. Anything else? Does anyone want to jump in on that? All right. Anything else I missed? Steering committee members? Any tips or tricks you have for partners? Or Amy, is there anything?
This is Dick Cates. I'll take your challenge.
All right, Dick.
I'll add something. You know, so many of the projects do involve shovel work. And from my perspective as a landowner and as a person who's cared for passionately 3 miles of a cold water trout stream for the last almost 50 years, the shovel work is essential. It's visible. It's something that clearly has costs something, and you can see that the money is where it's spent. But honestly, engaging landowners, whether they be farmers or public servants or nonprofit groups, and changing minds and teaching about how to manage this land, from my perspective, is what really makes our projects tremendously valuable to our society. So I think that engaging more than one landowner, groups of them, and discussing the pros and cons, especially with climate change. We're going to have more streams that have been so-called improved, but they get washed out and everything changes. So engaging citizens, landowners in this education process of how to care for our wetlands, our waterways, is so important to me. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Dick. Really appreciate that. It's great and important perspective. Yeah, and I wanted to mention too, like, you might be thinking of a project that isn't quite ready. You know, maybe you have a great project, but you don't have everything lined up. We're all willing to work with you too, that we can help kind of mold the project so that maybe you don't put it in for funding this year, but maybe next year. So we're willing to do that as well. I just wanted to mention that. We have been able to fund different groups at all different levels, as long as you're 501c3. So we have funded farmer-led groups in Minnesota and Wisconsin. You know, some of the ones in Wisconsin, we've worked with Valley Stewardship Network and have worked with some of the farmer-led groups with them, you know, Coon Creek Farmers, Bad Axe, Tanner Creek, West Fork. In Minnesota, the Rush Pine, Whitewater, and 7 Mile. I'm trying to think of some others. There's been quite a few over the years. So we worked with the very first farmer-led committee in Missouri, and so worked there on the Burbus Merrimack many years ago with a farmer there, and great project working on, it was actually a pasture project. So lots of great work and a lot of great projects coming out of farmer-led groups and watershed groups, and all of the folks that are on the call. A lot of the work that you do is so important. And so if there's anything we can do to help you bring in resources, we're willing to at least try. Looks like we have a hand up. Dustin Anderson?
Yeah, hi. I see that like your project awarding is quite a ways into the future, but is there kind of like some stages along that process where your steering committee is kind of weeding out proposals that aren't going to be funded? And if so, how early would applicants be notified that their proposal is not going to be funded?
Yeah, so when projects come in, there have been a few, some of them that we say, well, we just can't fund that. Or we will send them to another partner that we know possibly will fund it. There are sometimes projects that come in that I just know the steering committee is not going to approve it, so we don't want you to spend a lot of time on it. So we will let you know up front, you know, but then also if it does go into the pool of proposals, the steering committee decides. So we'll have our steering committee in-person meeting in Dubuque, Iowa, at the end of September. So September like 28th, 29th, and they will rank those projects. At the end of that week, I try to call back all of the folks that turned in proposals and let them kind of know where they ranked out. It might be the week after. We have to, it takes a little bit. So the steering committee actually will go through and provide comments on what they think of each project. And we working with Amy, we come up with kind of a nice little synopsis afterwards on strengths of the project, maybe some weaknesses to work on, and then we send that to you. And then we'll also say where you came out in the ranking so that you're not sitting there twiddling your thumbs. Some of the folks that are kind of in the middle, it's a little hard to we tell them that where they came out, what number they came out, but sometimes it's a little hard to know if you really have a chance of funding or not, because like I said, every year our funding amount changes. And so some years we receive a lot more funding than other years. And so I'll just let you know you're kind of on the bubble. So you might receive some. Are you willing to take partial? And that's one of the questions on the proposal as well. Like, are you able to take partial funding? If yes, most people say yes, then you can work with me and we will go back and look at the deliverables and the budget, and we can work with you and decrease the amount of deliverables to match your budget. So we're really flexible as far as that is concerned. We're willing to, we understand it's hard to know. So you would probably know, I would say in October, right, Amy?
Yeah, I was just gonna chime in here. So
Yeah.
we will have project feedback to every applicant by October 15th.
Oh,
And that feedback will include comments from each and every steering committee member about your project. So you will know where it sat in, everybody's minds. And like Heidi said, let's just say for a round number, we get 10 total project applications. We will rank those out and we will advance, anywhere from 4 to 6 of those. And it's going to depend on how much funding we receive from NIFHAP. So around that $300,000 range, those are the projects that will be submitted to NIFHAP, but we don't necessarily know what that exact dollar amount that we will be awarded to give to you guys is for the next few months. So those projects, those 2 to 4 to 6 projects that we advance kind of to the National Fish Habitat Partnership, those are the ones that will most likely be funded. But as Heidi said, there may be an occasion where we have to reach out and say, hey, we only got $280,000 from the National Fish Habitat Partnership. Instead of us being able to fund your $40,000, we can only fund 20. Will you take 20? So hopefully that kind of provides, that was a long answer to your question, but by October 15th, everybody will have their feedback and everybody will know if their project was accepted or if their project moves on to hopefully get funded.
Heidi, there was one more question in the chat. Can a project be strictly engagement and education?
I have kind of a mixed answer on that. It kind of depends on the project. We definitely want to see a social aspect, outreach, education, everything that you're doing, but we also want to see it leading towards something on the ground. So the projects don't have to include dirt moving, but we really like to see, okay, how is the engagement and education, like how are you working toward creating change on the ground? And so, we've funded, projects with different farmer groups that have done field days and different things like that, workshops, monitoring projects. But we really want to see, how is it working towards the dirt moving? So yeah, I would say, yeah, feel free to send those in. And or for sure reach out to me ahead of time and we can talk about it a little bit more too. Did I miss any other questions?
This is Dick. Again, Heidi.
Yep.
Can you hear? Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would just expand the term dirt moving to changes of land use and land cover. Changing the agricultural practices on the uplands is critical, and it can be in lieu of dirt moving, if you will. But I agree with Heidi. It's important to see some action, some activity that change behavior, as well as meetings and talking about things. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Dick. Appreciate that. All right, I don't see any questions in the chat or the Q&A. I just want to say thank you, everyone, for coming out today and asking your questions. I will be available. Feel free to send me an email or pick up the phone, and I can set up a meeting to talk about your project a little bit more. And yeah, I look forward to seeing your projects and how we can help. We really want to be a part of your project too. Like Fishers and Farmers wants to be a part of it. We like to do cooperative agreements, not just grant agreements. We don't want to just, send money out the door and not see and not be a part of it. So we really love projects that engage us as well. I'm willing to get on the road and work with you, do programs and different things like that. So really appreciate everyone joining today. The webinar is recorded, so we'll be sending that out afterwards. So anyone that couldn't make it today, feel free to send it to them or let them know. Really appreciate everyone, and thank you so much to the steering committee members and for letting me pick your brains a little bit today and popping on, even though you're really busy. Dick Kate's on the road. So thank you very much, everyone.